This is EdTech People, a podcast where we get to meet those working in EdTech, exploring their journeys, roles and insights. You can catch up on our previous episodes at any time by searching for us wherever you get your podcasts or visiting our website at www.edtechpeople.co.uk. We're always on the lookout for guests, so if you're interested in coming on the podcast, please follow the link on our website and let us know. Hello and welcome to another episode of EdTech People. Today I'm pleased to welcome Imogen Ley-Clowes. What is it that you do, Imogen? Why are you so interested in talking on an EdTech podcast?
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me. Been really looking forward to being here and being a fan of your podcast for a little bit. What it is that I do? Essentially, I run a branding studio. And we work quite a lot with companies in EdTech or the educational space. Hence, I was particularly interested to come and chat to you. But yeah, I'm happy to tell you a little bit more about what branding means as well, if you like.
Excellent. That sounds really interesting. And it's one of the things that I run this podcast for, is to understand the different people and how they interact with EdTech as an industry, because it's far more than just the individual schools, isn't it? So you work with a lot of companies who supply to EdTech, supply EdTech to schools.
It's more kind of broadly in the educational space and kind of EdTech as apps, for example. So that's my background. But yeah, so kind of the work that we do, branding encompasses quite a lot of different things. So we're kind of we mentioned we're strategic. So that starts with brand strategy, which is essentially figuring out what it is that your company stands for, who your audience is. So that kind of crosses over into marketing. I think marketing people will be familiar with some of this terminology. Also thinking about what your values are as an organization and how that kind of leads into everything else. And then there's that kind of big, kind of juicy part of it, which is the brand identity. Which is thinking about what it is that you look like. So I think when people think of branding, they often think of logo. It's kind of the obvious thing.
Yeah.
So it's your whole identity. So thinking about your logo, your color palette, your typefaces, and many other things in between. But it's also thinking about how you sound as well. So, you know, what's your tone of voice? What are your key messages? Things like that. And then we also do web design and build as well.
Okay, so some really interesting bits there, I think, to get into there. Are you able to give us any examples of people that we might know that you've worked with, or are there any that I know sometimes you can't because of NDAs and stuff like that, but is there anybody that you can give us, or if not an exact name, like an indication of what kind of thing that they were in or doing more broadly?
Yeah, so I think we're quite a small studio, so we work with kind of smaller brands, so I don't think any names will be that familiar to people. But yeah, I think it's quite broad in what we do for educational companies. And what I described there is kind of the full spectrum. Sometimes we might work with a company and they're struggling with their messaging. So we call that like tone of voice work. So sometimes we just work on one piece of the puzzle. And yeah, I think more broadly in the education space, we've worked with quite a lot of companies kind of in tutoring services as well.
Okay, cool. So what is the big difference then when it comes to marketing to obviously audience who you're aiming towards? So what's the difference between when you're looking to be able to promote to some of these schools and school leaders? What kind of things do they engage with that matters to them, have you found?
So I think what's really important within education is trust. You know, and I think I can talk about that a little bit more, but that's why a lot of educational brands are blue, because that's intrinsically linked to trust.
All right, okay.
Yeah, so I think it can typically in the education space, it's not really after being like the cool, flashy thing. It's about how you can portray this in quite an authentic way. So I think can trust, authenticity, and clarity come into it. It's not. We do also work with some startups, and they take quite a different approach, and kind of innovation is really important to them. So yeah, I think understanding, and I think thinking about why people are coming to us, what is their issue. I think often one that comes up is I'm embarrassed to send my website to people, and that's normally a sign that then there needs to be a bit of a change.
Yeah, definitely. It's a really interesting area. I mean, I've designed websites since I was like 9 or 10. I wouldn't say any good, but when I was younger, I used to do it because it was a new thing, and a lot of the time when I've worked with schools, I've been trying to help them with their branding in terms of developing their websites, and then
Mm.
when I've and some of our listeners might be able to connect this as well is. Actually branding up IT teams as well, and so they're not seen as just a geek behind a table in a dark and dingy office, and actually creating a brand like we are the IT team. We'll be able to go and help you, and this is what we do, kind of things. And then further on from that, now working for an MSP, it's obviously marketing is a lot of what we're doing. And in fact, just before I came on the podcast, I was doing setting up a presentation for training tomorrow for our marketing, our finance, our procurement teams, I use the term loosely non-technical people to
Mhm.
try and translate some of that stuff across. And it's so interesting, I think, um, when you're looking at it from all those different angles. As I say, when you're doing the marketing of a school, you've got your open evenings, you've got your website, you've got your general, and then you've got your parents who jump onto Facebook or something and leave their own reviews and comments on there as well. And there's such a different audience. I suppose when you're trying to interact with schools, you've also got a lot of different people in schools, haven't you, for customers potentially? You've got your senior leaders, you might have multi-academy trust leaders, you might have your teachers, your IT, your admin, all these different
Mm.
people. And part of the work that you've got to do is identify who are the decision makers, who are the budget holders, who are the people who are going to be able to take action on whatever message you're trying to get across.
Yeah. I think you've touched on really two really interesting points there. So one is like the brand is so much more than what it looks like in terms of like the work you're doing. You're translating messages there, how it leads into the marketing. And I think a good rebrand should consider all of those. It's not just about how we look like right now, but how's this going to affect all of the different teams and the communication for practical reasons, like what needs updating, but also kind of getting everyone on board and including them, the IT team in the dark cupboard, everyone, and making sure that, their views are heard. And then I think, yeah, thinking about different audience, and I think within the education space there are so many different audience types, and as you say, some are the key decision makers, but all of those different audience types should be considered, and this is an exercise that's really important at the brand strategy stage. It's quite fun. Well, I think it's quite fun. We've got, call it reasons to believe and reasons to leave, and obviously that gets turned into an acronym. So reasons why people interacting with your brand would trust you, and reasons why they weren't, and then that helps you with things like writing the copy for the website. So, okay, what parents do messages need to hear to think this is a great place for their child? So I think thinking about the different audience types and how that can inform not your brand, but also other things and other ways that
Mm.
they'll communicate throughout schools.
Yeah, I always remember having to try and work out try and talk to schools about like their websites and saying, well, hang on a minute, who's your audience here? Is it existing parents or is it new parents? Because they're two very different groups of people when they go to the website for what they're looking for. And I
Mm.
guess it's exactly the same with kind of the work that you're doing in terms of you might have two people, one person coming there looking at it from compliance, maybe a school business leader has been sent it from somebody else. So whatever they're looking at, is this product or service compliant? Is it value for money? And then
Mm.
you've got the leadership team who, in my experience, like shiny things and bold statements that it can solve all their problems, and whatever you're trying to put over on there. So you mentioned earlier that blue is this color that was it you were saying it makes it reliable, is that right?
Yeah, so blue is connected with trust. So that's why quite a
Right.
lot of educational brands and also banks lean quite heavily into blue. And
Yeah.
yeah, but one of the exercises we do because you have to be really careful about rebrands, especially if the organization has been around for quite a long time, because it might be a bit embarrassing. It might not be like quite where people want it to be, but there are always elements of it that people recognize.
Yeah.
So it's, considering where's your kind of brand equity, if you want to use a kind of brandy term, but doing the competitor research around what are the other schools or companies, whatever the company is involved in. So you're seeing how you sit within the sector rather than being too laser focused on what it is that you look like. And often we did a tutoring brand recently based in London, and I think 95% of the competitors were blue. And the client, he really liked the color blue. He really wanted to be blue. And then we showed him this work, and he's like, "I don't think we should be blue." And I was like, "Right, we should do something else." So yeah, I think it's always important to look at all of those sorts of things. And I think again with the logo, there are quite a lot of things that pop up quite a lot. Obviously, schools with shields, with
Mm.
modern platforms, there might be quite a lot of owls used, or of course the university hats, and I can never remember what they're called. They have,
It's mortarboards, isn't it?
yeah, they
Yeah,
have a silly
yeah,
name. Yeah, there are a lot of
yeah,
logos in the educational space with those, and I think that's
yeah.
never a great idea.
Also, names are one that I used to work for a Catholic Multi Academy company, and I one of our schools was called Our Lady of what was it? Our Lady of Mount Carmel Catholic First School, part of the Our Lady of Lourdes Catholic Multi Academy company. So,
Wow,
and this
that's a
is for
mouthful.
yeah, this is for first school kids. So this is the youngest kids you've got, and they've got to type in their email address and their names.
Oh, that
Um,
wasn't the email address, was it? Please tell me that they
yeah,
short.
yeah. Their email address was I won't say it out loud, but not only did it have the name of the school in it, but it also had it in school email address they have dot and then like the area, so Worcestershire's dot wus
Oh
dot
wow.
sch dot uk, and then you're asking a 6 7 year old to type that in to get on a device, and so you can it's interesting because all these things are things that we have to think about from a technical point of view, but obviously when it comes to marketing as well,
Yeah.
website domains are a key thing, aren't they? That you have to get right, and so I think there's challenges, isn't there, going into the schools and stuff, but also with the companies that you're perhaps working with or looking at, and wider than the educational field, it's trying to get the message across of what they do. It can be
Hmm.
quite difficult, especially in the edtech sphere, where and where you mentioned as well around tutoring. It's new to a lot of people, isn't it? They come into these. So is it a challenge to get those messages across, and get the clarity to somebody quite quickly in a world where we're all losing time and getting distracted really quite easily? How do you come across some of those challenges and fix them?
Yeah, so I think what you touched on there, like being new in a sector and having to educate people, that this is a great thing because obviously you've spotted a gap in the market if you're, bringing something new. But then there is a certain amount of work that's needed to educate people on why this solution or whatever it is needed. So I think working through that as quickly as possible so that people don't get bored on the educational journey. But I think thought leadership is very important for that, but making that engaging. I think so it's working quite closely with the team and asking them, okay, really simple example, if they're on a sales call, how are they, what words are they using to help people understand this, and they'll be experimenting with different words, and there'll be some phrases that people just understand a lot quicker, so that can be really valuable for us. I think also reading customer reviews or going on things like Reddit or Facebook, and you're looking at the words that people are actually using to describe a service or complain about a service, that can also be really useful. I think initially there can be a little bit of trial and error in there, but the more information companies have or is available online can help you get there a little bit quicker.
That's interesting. Now you mentioned there around thought leadership. This is something that I've been interested in hearing a bit more about. Can you break that down for me? What does that look like? What does that mean?
So thought leadership is becoming, I don't know if I should say it. I think my definition is becoming an authority in the space. And
Okay.
depending on where your audience are, there's lots of different ways to do that. I think thought leadership probably exists on TikTok, even though that feels like a little bit, kind of polarizing maybe. But yeah, I think traditionally in the education space, it's a really good way to do that. So that could be things like going on a podcast or a webinar, writing articles on your company's website, doing guest articles, PR opportunities. But I think, yeah, talking about it in as many ways as possible that feels relevant to the audience. Certain companies wouldn't dream of going on TikTok because their audience aren't there. So yeah, I think it's thinking about where they hang out and how you can get these messages. I think lots of things are quite snappy now, like for example, TikTok and short LinkedIn posts and stuff like that. So I think there really is a place for longer form articles, especially when you're introducing something new into a sector, and it sometimes you do need to spend a little bit of time explaining that.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's authenticity as well, isn't it? Because if you and you see this a lot when things are going out and you're working in a school, is that oh, read how this school overcame this challenge with us. You know,
Mm.
they focus on relatable experiences and relatable people within the industry, and obviously you don't really have well-known people in EdTech or wider as you would perhaps in other areas, but so you're not going to get like Molly May coming and talking to you about a management information system. I mean, I don't even know who Molly May is. It's just a
Nor
name
do
that
I
I
actually, but I feel like I
no.
should.
Yeah, I don't know. I've heard it. I've got teenage kids, so that's my
Oh,
excuse.
yeah.
But yeah, you've got an influencer coming in to talk about it, and um, yeah, you don't really have that in education as much, but you do have people where there's a bit of authenticity, don't you? Who can,
Mm.
companies can tell those stories. But I guess on the flip side of that, you have to get your foot in the door first to be able to get one of those customers and to speak about you.
Yeah, yeah. I think as you touch on there, case studies are really important because often the easiest way to understand what someone does is read a case study or like, is this right for like fine, they say they do that, but can they do it for my business? And having multiple case studies about different sectors or whatever can be really helpful. And I think that's a reassuring point. Similarly, testimonials. There's been a big rise in video testimonials on websites. I don't know if you've seen that, but like
Yeah,
ultimate authenticity. I think most of the ones I see are really good, but occasionally you see someone who's like done it because they've been told to do it, and the quality of them's quite low. You think, I
yeah.
don't know if this is really helping you, because it's harder than it looks to do a kind of good quality video thingy-mabobby.
It really is, and
Yeah.
so Coursera, who I work for, our marketing lead is Nadia, and I knew about Nadia's work before I knew Nadia, and I knew it's what enticed me potentially to go and work for them as well. And
Nice.
her videos, if you've never watched one, I highly recommend looking at the website. She makes videos along with Sam, who's a videographer, and with a story and with real purpose
Mm.
and real clear linking back to places, and it's something that does us proud of the work that we do, and it's nice because other people have kind of latched onto that and now are trying to copy that, but that original
That's a huge
authenticity
compliment.
still sticks. Yeah, exactly. They see something working and they try to do it. I'm always the one where she's interviewing, she's like, could you try and really simplify down this really technical thing that you've achieved in about 3 seconds? That's what you've got to do it. So but yes, so I know that's really quite important to
Yeah.
get right on there. Is there a bit that when it comes to education that you're talking about using things like TikTok? Have those new emerging technologies really been places where you think about putting content for these kind of people that you're working with, or even if you're not working, if you were working with them, do you think there's a place for that in when you're trying to do it, I suppose, more business to business, almost, if it is trying to go from business to a school rather than to individuals?
Yeah, I think typically TikTok business to business isn't the obvious choice, but I can't remember the name. I do know some players in the space because it's not the obvious choice. They are doing that and they've done quite well.
Mm,
I think it's really down to your audience and a company or a school that's trying to get children more engaged. That's a really good shout to go on TikTok. So yeah, I think it just depends on who the audience are, and I think also it is quite good. So we think talking there about like written case studies and videos and all that kind of thing. Good to try lots of different formats because different audience types will love reading. Some will relate to video. So thinking about, okay, we've been fairly successful on LinkedIn, which is like a classic B2B platform. How could we translate that to TikTok? Can be quite a useful exercise for kind of spinning things on their head a little bit when you've, done a certain thing for a long time and you're having a similar sort of results. A bit like Nadia saying to you, okay, give us that in 3 seconds.
yeah.
Like, that's a challenge to have.
Well, yes, there's a lot of outtakes. There's a
Yeah, I
lot
was
of
going to say, how many
outtakes.
takes does that take?
There was she sent me one the other day actually, and it's just I was sat on a table in the school and talking, and she was trying to tell me it's just literally me putting my heads in my hands, going, "Shut up, Nadia," because I was trying to get it right in my name. And now she sent that clip of me saying it. So quite often now I just send it to her as a meme when she's talking or something. I'm just like send it across to her.
That's
But
great.
I think it's really cool actually to work with that internally and be able to turn some of that work that we've done into showcases.
Yeah.
And as I mentioned, it obviously is the marketing. The aim is to get more customers for sure, but it's also about talking about our values and what we do it and how we do of that on there. And I think that's where some of the crossover sometimes comes that actually we can put it out on TikTok, we can put it out on like Instagram because those kind of things we want to show off, not necessarily we're targeting it
Mm.
all on getting new customers. Obviously, there's a business need behind it, but what in terms of that kind of brand awareness, I guess, how important is that these days, and how in a crowded marketplace like education and a worldwide audience now, things being online, how critical is that?
Yeah, brand awareness. You've hit on something very important there, and I think like as you're talking, this is making me think about the relationship between branding and marketing because I think sometimes there can be a bit of confusion. I think branding is making sure if we go like super simple is making sure you're dressed in the right way, and marketing is okay. You've got to now go out and speak to people, and that's how you win customers. So you need the clothes, but you also need to go and do the other bit. And I think in the early days we did work with a few brands that felt like now they had a brand and they were feeling confident about it, all the leads would flood in. And I think when people find you, if you've got a good brand, that's better. But then you've got to find people, they've got to find you. So that marketing piece is really important. And yeah, I think brand awareness, everyone has to work a lot harder now. There are so many more business, so many more products. There was some stat the other day about how many products there used to be in the supermarket today versus 10 years ago. And we are all just like inundated with decisions because there are so many different options with everything. So I think, yeah, brand awareness is very important. And that's why you have to be quite careful when you change brands because brand might have been around for 10 years. And as I said, it feels a little bit tired, but there will be all those notes that are stuck in people's minds. They often remember very little about branding, I think, or about the brand. I think, for example, kind of phone providers or supermarkets, or you can see them all taking a lane, like they all pick a color and stay with that. Obviously, we see those really big brands every day, so we'd remember a color and a name. But most brands don't have that luxury. They're sort of the green one in the sector. I can't remember what they're called. That takes a little bit of time. So you
Is that
just have to
why
be quite.
Orange called themselves Orange?
Oh, I don't actually know, but yeah, probably because you're tying two cues together. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Um,
think some of that legacy kind of thing as well is quite interesting to focus on when it
mm,
comes to education as well, because some players have been there for a long old time, and
mm,
we through in IT and in education, a lot of brands have had to migrate from a legacy technology, so on-prem in their servers, and now are trying to promote themselves as a cloud-based future thing, and
mm,
unlike other things that they've got to show that transition from we were this, we are now this. A couple of really big examples of that. One is Bromcom, who you may or may not have heard of, but they used to be, when I was a lad back in the day, in school, they used to be really these old tablets before tablets, and people take the registers on them, and you see them. Now they're leading the way in producing like MIS software, which is like CRM for schools,
okay.
fully cloud based and fully interactive, and using AI and all that content technology. They've been around for
Mm,
goodness knows how long, 20, 30 years, perhaps even longer, and they've had to rebrand it. And I've always found it interesting is that they've kept the logo the same,
hmm.
but the product that they're doing is really, really different. And then you've got
Yeah, that sounds like
Arbor.
quite a change.
Say it again, sorry.
I said that sounds like quite a change, like how they've
Yeah,
evolved.
exactly. And they're up against people who are coming new into the market, like Arbor. I don't know if you've ever seen any of the Arbor marketing, but they're um, very different style, doing a product that's direct competition to this
Mm,
legacy one. And then it's been quite interesting to see how they go up against each other in that kind of way from over the years, seeing those brands develop. Because I
mm,
guess that's a big part of it, isn't it? how do you develop the ones? And you talk about rebranding. Uh, at what point do you need to rebrand? Like I say, Bromcom's never redone their logo.
Yeah.
At what point do you think a company needs to think about that rebranding to move themselves forward?
So there can be a number of different reasons. I think we've touched on. I think embarrassment is often a trigger. So when something is so outdated, but I think thinking about, okay, does the logo maybe symbolize what our product is, and like that company, their product has now changed, then you'd have a little bit of a problem because you're sort of misrepresenting yourself. So that's when you would probably you would most likely look at a rebrand. So I think that's a really good reason. I think it's quite easy to create quite a small brand that exists across a couple of different touch points. But as a company grows, there'll be multiple different areas where the brand needs to exist, things like the back end. There might be a lot more kind of statistics and things involved. And in the early days when brands get going, they might have like two colors in a logo and sort of no illustrations, no photographic style or anything like that. And as a brand grows, they're kind of held back a little bit because they don't have, we like to call them like ingredients. So it might be, okay, we're quite happy with our colors and our logo, but we need a bit more. So someone come in and kind of mature the brand, as it were.
Sorry to interrupt the podcast, and we'll jump back in shortly, but I want to introduce the sponsors who make EdTech People possible. All are recognisable brands to anyone working in EdTech. Smoothall need no introduction to those working in schools, with 1 in 3 in the UK using their internet filtering, which provides real-time filtering wherever a user is and on any device. They also provide Smoothall Monitor, which is an essential safeguarding solution which allows monitoring of devices and captures for schools. You can find out more about Smoothall Filter and Smoothall Monitor and the other advice and support they've got available at smoothall.com. Next up, Secure Schools are an education-only cybersecurity team working to help schools understand the security within their schools and, crucially, provide support and training for those working within the school or trust. Recently, they have released their free Cyber School tool, allowing schools to assess their cybersecurity easily by answering key questions and getting a dashboard with all their results. Find out more by visiting their website at secureschools.com. First Pillar provide extensive support to schools in a wide range of areas. Their founder, Emma Gray, is an experienced school business leader who now works to support schools in all their operational needs, leaving them to focus on educating. You can see all the services that Emma offers at First Pillar and some great blog posts by visiting her website at firstpillar.co.uk.
Hello listeners of EdTech People, I'm Craig. When I worked in a school, I noticed how challenging it was for teachers to find and reserve shared spaces. That's why I created Classroom Bookings, an easy-to-use online room booking system. With Classroom Bookings, staff can reserve rooms at any time from anywhere. Designed for schools of all sizes, it supports multi-week timetables and flexible period times. Plus, the cloud service is priced at just £149 per year with no limit on the number of rooms or users. Try it free today or find out more at classroombookings.com.
And in that kind of development as well, obviously mediums change, and we've already talked, a bit about social media, and not only that, I mean, I suppose the real obvious one is Twitter. It was huge. It's now not as big, or certainly not the same type of people that were on there a few years, and engagement on there. I used to have a few thousand followers, and I just came off the platform when it wasn't somewhere that I wanted to be, and that lost a big community of people there, kind of thing. Are you seeing, from a social media point of view, more engagement on particular platforms, video versus text? You talk about podcasts as well. I think they're relatively a new phenomenon that people are dialing into a bit more.
Yeah, I think I should preface this. I'm not a social media expert. When our clients need social media expertise, we kind of refer them on. But from the trends that I'm seeing, kind of I'm looking at, I guess, with promoting our business, I think I know video on LinkedIn does quite badly at the moment. Carousels are king, but LinkedIn, the algorithm is changing all the time. I think with things, obviously, TikTok is built on that. And Instagram, I think, are prioritizing that in certain ways. So I think, yeah, it's important to keep keep track of all these things, but I think variety is also good, and variety of different platforms. As you say, you didn't want to be on Twitter, X, same thing anymore.
Yeah.
So you've looked at, you obviously are quite active in other areas, so that was okay. If that had been your only avenue, that would have been quite detrimental to your personal brand. So I think making sure that, not all your eggs are in one basket, even if one platform performs so much better than the other, you should always be in other platforms as well.
Definitely. And do you have much in your role, where AI is starting to come into it a bit? Is it still something that is quite new in that kind of area, or are you seeing it make a real impact?
Yeah, I think AI is absolutely huge in what we do. I think it's been very disruptive. We use it. I think we're experimenting with it. We've just written an AI policy actually, because we do get asked about that quite a lot in the kind of early calls with clients, and a policy for our team as well. So I'm very happy for them to use AI, but they need to let me know when AI is being used and kind of being used in the right way. So obviously, different platforms, it's very easy to rip off other brands' work, and being very clear with more junior designers that is not acceptable, and we do not do that, because the worst thing in the world can be you don't know the brand that they've ripped off, and you'd be in a meeting and it looks strangely like something else. You have to be quite careful there. But yeah, we use a lot of different tools. Some of your listeners might be aware of some of the changes that are happening with Nano Banana, ridiculous name. That's kind of the leading tool for image generation at the moment, and it is pretty mind-blowing.
So that's Google, isn't it?
Yeah, I think Google's behind that one.
Yeah, through their Gemini. Yeah, I actually met one of the guys at Google who has actually been working on it. One of the lead developers when I was there the other week, and it took me about 5 minutes when he was talking about it to go, Nano, but not. What the hell are you on about? What an odd name. For those people who haven't, talk us through what is it? Does it excite you? Why is it good?
Image generation tool. So it works by prompting. You can prompt it with no images. You can just describe what you want, or you can use reference images. So I was working with some photography today, and it was in the wrong season. So I was saying, recreate this image style, but I need the season to change. And I think what a lot of us think of AI images is it's really like slick and a bit shiny and a bit gross. It's not anymore. Like I was, because I have been quite anti it and only using AI imagery when we really, really have to. But it's really, really stepped up. I think the image generators, obviously, they can do illustration as well. Illustration's quite far behind. I would never use. It sometimes helps with compositions if you're sketching out ideas to think about, okay, we've recently created different sector, but we've recently created a hare, like a rabbit, but a hare, for a car rental brand called Finn. And using AI was very helpful in speeding up that process. So it's good for looking at different poses and all that kind of stuff. But the quality is just not the same as for images. But yeah, we use a lot of AI in our processes as well.
So I'm interested. Obviously, you're using technology regularly then on a day-to-day basis, and just linking it back in with the EdTech theme a little bit. I guess you've come out of. Is that something that you had experience of in school of using the tools? I'm going to make an assumption that you're a Mac user.
I am. Yeah. Good assumption. Yeah.
I'm a recent convert to it. But did you feel that what you did in school actually helped you get into this field and prepare you for it, or did you learn that yourself because you were growing up with the technology, if you like?
Yeah, I think it did. I mean, they were always encouraging us to experiment and try different things, and there was lots of kind of classes on stuff. So yeah, I think the schools I went to, I think it was a bit broader than the technology, but encouraged you to be curious and make mistakes. And if we link this back to AI, I think that's one of the things I'm a little bit worried about with the younger generation is because I'm sure you remember like your first job, like the silly mistakes that you make because you don't really know, and then you learn from, and like, I don't know, maybe like doing a presentation or whatever, really embarrassing, and that's embedded in your memory, and you would never do that again, and you're much better at doing it whatever you were doing. But like, I feel like the younger generation now, they're not allowed to make mistakes because they just ask ChatGPT and they get given the answer. They haven't really learned anything there, have they? They've just got the answer in 2 seconds.
Yeah, I think as well, it's really that links to what you're talking about, about the nano banana and the image generation as well. There's a science, isn't there, behind good imagery
Yeah.
and creation of it. Are we at risk of losing that a little bit with AI technology? Because there's this similar thought whenever I'm doing AI training with teachers. I'm like, but the thing is, if somebody's once told AI about a bad method of teaching, or an old method because they changed, what you're supposed to do and what they call it, all these kind of acronyms fairly regularly as teachers do, and if AI doesn't know that that one's been debunked or been replaced by this one, it will reference the previous ones. And I guess if AI image generation only ever has learned from things, where does that innovation come from in the future?
Yeah, so I think that is the whole problem with AI and creativity. It's just regurgitating stuff that has been trained on. But I think it's just being careful about where you're using it and like bringing the right direction. So whether that be photography or writing style, and like you are the master of it. It's not. So I use it quite a lot for writing, but I never ask it to write first, because when you're a bit tired and you need to get something done, you let it lead you. You think, oh, that's a great idea. I read a post that I wrote on LinkedIn like 2 months ago. I was like, I would never say that word. So now I always write stuff first, and I'm
Yeah.
really dyslexic, so I find it super useful. But you're making sure that you are leading it, and then you ask it for a little bit of input. But one thing I do find quite a fun game is asking different models to critique something you've written, and that's really interesting. And I think that often does improve it. But yeah, that's quite good.
Absolutely, absolutely. I thought I got an email through from one the other day telling me that it could build me a website in seconds. That's what it was featured
Mm.
for,
Yeah, there's a
and
lot of
it
those out there.
yeah, and it did. But websites are far more than what AI can generate, aren't they? In terms of that they can copy other people, as you say, but it's that uniqueness and also the quality of the prompt that you're putting in, because you're not telling it everything that somebody who's an expert like yourselves and your team can pull out from experience the bits of information that you need, which will influence in a design choice, I guess. And AI
Yeah.
can't necessarily do that, can it? In
Yeah, and
like
I think websites and AI is a really interesting one. And I think, with the exception of building a one-page website for an event or a book launch, which you can do on a platform like Lovable, great.
that's the
I
one,
don't want to
Lovable.
do that.
That's the one I used the other
Yeah,
day. Yeah,
yeah, all ears for that. But I think anything that is more complex than that, it's not a great idea. It's a bit like being given the keys to a Ferrari and thinking you can drive it without crashing. And there are some real car crashes out there. And I think what we're pushing to do is specializing in more complex websites, because
mm,
a website is, to create a good website for a company or a school, you've really got to understand them. You've got to spend quite a lot of time with them, because what they think they should have on their website is not right. It never is. Total respect to my client, but it's a process that you go through together, and then they tell me like, oh no, actually we shouldn't have that service like that, or that service links, it does come from them, but it's a process of exploration and asking the right questions and all that kind of stuff. And I think, also going back to the kind of AI websites, there have been template websites around for ages that you could
yeah,
buy or get for free, and some of these AI websites, I just think Wix does a way better template, But people are really excited because it's the shiny new toy. But then in other ways, it is really helpful for our process. So things like, do you know about alt text on images? I'm sure you do.
yeah. For accessibility, yeah,
Yeah, really boring thing to do is write descriptions of all the images. But yes, for accessibility, Google likes it, your website ranking will go up. Now, we use a platform called Webflow to build most of our websites. I mean, it depends what they need, but Webflow is our kind of go-to. And now you can click a button and it will write all the alt text for you. Like, I think that's an amazing thing, and that's sped
yeah.
up the process. You can edit them if you like, but I think, yeah, the existing good tools, bringing in AI is great, but I'm quite wary of the new tools, especially when they're set up by AI people, not people with a background in development or website design.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a real premium on non-AI generated content because
Yeah.
there'll be a lot of what's been coined AI slop going out there. You've got the Spotify and you've got the music now. There's apparently millions of tracks on there that are AI generated and entire bands. I listened to The Rest Is Entertainment with the tall chap from Pointless. I've forgotten his name. Richard. and Marina on there, and they talk a lot about it in terms of like that entertainment sphere and how you can build a movie and use this kind of technology. But it's the premium is going to be experts like yourself who can start to link things up and be innovative in terms of what the outcome is, because what are the things that go viral these days? They are the things that are innovative and least expected in a lot of cases. You always know when people are trying hard, don't you? Too hard for something to go viral and copying stuff on there. But yeah, and when you're working with these customers in terms of developing their marketing plans and their branding, and then and looking at the directions and starting afresh on them and everything else that you're doing with them, is it something that you still get back to pen and paper for sometimes, just to sketch out ideas and use that, or is it all technology based for you?
Yeah, no, I do. I think I do a bit less of the design now. I have a team that does that. So I do all the strategy. And yeah, we're a small business. So I'm like head of HR, head of sales,
Yeah.
head of finance. But yeah, when I do, I haven't designed a logo for a little bit, but when I do, I do start with paper, and I help the team with the initial planning of the website. So we call them the site maps and the wireframe, which I'm sure you know, but for your listeners is the kind of architectural drawings of a website. And I like to do that in pencil, just because it's just super quick. The client doesn't do that, no one else sees that, but it's just me thinking, and it's the quicker for me to think. But my background is an illustrator prior to that, long time ago, so I should be able to draw, but I seem to have forgotten. Wireframes are often a big mess.
Do you know what? In a weird way, the other day on TikTok, I purchased some fancy felt tip pens on some that they're doing, and some of these colouring things to chill out and do. And it's quite weird, that conversation that we just had, where we were talking about TikTok as a medium. We're talking about using the technology, and now it's influenced me to probably buy something that I'd never ever buy, and just to move away from the computers on there. And it's got absolutely nothing to do with marketing or anything that you're trying to do in the state. But it's funny how these things are linked on there. So, Imogen, if people wanted to find out a bit more about you and your team and what you want to do, and perhaps have a bit of a conversation around, how you could help them, bring them to a new audience, or refine their messaging, refine and have that strategy behind them, where can they find you? What kind of information? Not what kind of information. Whereabouts are you on the internet, I guess?
Yeah, so I hang out on LinkedIn, which is actually how we bumped into each other. So yeah, it's just, I think I'm the only Imogen Ley-Clowes. I got married last year, and we smushed our names together, which is very creative. So yeah, happy to connect with anyone on LinkedIn, and our website also has more information, which is imostudio.co.uk. So yeah, feel free to check that out.
Awesome. Well, it's been great having you as a guest, and I really like that it's a little bit of a different angle to what we normally go from, but I think that's what it's all about, and that's hopefully inspires other people to inquire about coming and having a chat as well, and people can then build network and interact with people. So just a reminder to our listeners, or if you're already watching, you can watch on YouTube, you can watch on Spotify, you can download this from wherever you like and subscribe. Search for EdTech People. You can find Imogen on LinkedIn. You can find myself on LinkedIn as well. So, Imogen, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. Really enjoyed our chat, Matthew.
Thank you.
You're right. Bye.